Well, good afternoon. It is April 5th. My name is Steve Estes, County Extension Agent for Ag and Natural Resources here in Taylor County. This is our weekly Big Country Wheat Update. This week we have Lanny Vinson with Abilene Ag Service and Supply joining us, and we appreciate Lanny being on here and taking some time out of his busy day. Lanny, I know that in your business it is busy, and that is a good thing because we have been getting some rain this year. Certainly, as opposed to the last couple of years, that's something that's really good, and also it's good for business, but it's also good that shows our wheat crop is looking pretty good. As if you joined in last week, you noticed that we talked about we had Dr. Nolan on here, and he mentioned that this is one of the first years in several years that our wheat crop looks as good as it does, and that certainly reflects that from the weather. But let's jump right into it real quick today. Stage of the wheat, we're anywhere from mostly boot stage up to heading stages around our area here in the Big Country. Lanny, what are you seeing out in the fields where you've been?
Same thing, Steve. It's been kind of fun to see what's going on because of the moisture that we had. Things look really, really good, and we're definitely, in that late boot stage to early heading stage. Some of it's even fully extended and out. So, guy came in yesterday and brought in some razor that had full heads on it. So it's way down the track and looking really good because of the moisture that we've had.
And last week I had mentioned about with Reagan on this little episode about the warmer temperatures we've had, kind of late winter and early spring. Our wheat seems to be progressing a little faster. I don't know necessarily faster than normal, but it kind of seems that way sometimes. But it is progressing pretty fast. We're in the late stretch of our crop here. It is looking good. I mentioned weather, whatnot. Last week we did get down about midweek, some cooler temperatures. Some areas where I'm at, north of Merkel, we experienced a freeze. We were down at freezing or below for a few hours from about 3 a.m. to 6:30 or 7 that morning. That could have an impact on some wheat. It hasn't been visible just yet. Folks they're scouting their fields. They start seeing some of those heads turning white. They'll know that it did get them. But a lot of that depends on the timing, the variety. There's a lot of factors that went into it as far as that morning. But you mentioned earlier before we started recording here that you didn't necessarily at your place, you didn't get down to freezing. You were close, but do you know of anywhere else that may have?
I haven't gotten a lot of feedback from people. I know there was some concern about it as you spoke, mostly up north of town. I think down south, we kind of dodged a bullet. And our personal stuff, we didn't see the temperatures get that low, but I know there's some guys that had some low-lying areas that felt like that maybe they could potentially have some freeze damage, but we didn't really. We don't really know that yet, as you said. So it's going to be anxious. They're going to be anxious to see what's happened.
Yeah, it's going to take a little time, but over the next couple of weeks, if they start seeing, especially those telltale signs, as I mentioned, the whiteheads out there, and then it's going to be a decision on how bad the damage was. If it's bad enough that it really going to severely impact the grain production, they should still have time to go in and cut it down for hay in that scenario. Yeah. All right, moving on. There were a few storms rolled through early this week on Monday, and I know some hail reports out in the Hawley area, and then also maybe southern Taylor County. What are you seeing as far as any damage from those storms?
Well, we've got some pivots up north of town, right there close to Hawley, and we definitely had some hail there at Nugent. It wasn't as bad as it was in Hawley, but there's some guys that's been in and said they had some damage up there. Down south, that same cell seemed to have started down southwest of town and kind of moved northeast and went across that Hawley area. So we got a little bit of that damage started on us down there just east of Tuscola. We've been in the field a couple of different times. We definitely got some damage as far as how much percentage, I don't really know yet. We're kind of waiting to see, but it was a pretty bad storm and pretty intense there for a short while, but luckily it wasn't a large area that covered.
And as far as rain reports go, most areas that I'm hearing and have seen has been about a half inch of rain. I'm sure that may be a little higher in some some isolated areas with those storms. You've been hearing about the same?
Yeah, no, we haven't had any really big rains all season. It just seemed like those 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, like you was talking about, that have really brought this weed along really nicely. Kept us with some moisture profile in the upper layer of the soil, and it's been really, really good. And now we continually have a little bit of cool weather, and I'm hoping that that'll help us with our grain field.
Yeah, certainly need it. And as far as moving forward, that's one thing we don't want. We don't want hot and dry conditions, and then also we've got to be mindful of those spring storms as they come through and drop some hail. Real quick,
With that
go ahead.
moisture, we've had a little bit of rust issue. You said you wanted to talk about that too. I mean, it's been a significant problem for us this year, and the guys that jumped on it early were able to kind of control, but those that didn't, you see some significant damage there. But as always, we try to tell the guys to protect that flag leaf and make sure that they keep it away from it when it comes to that late dough and early heading stage.
Yeah,
So,
and we're certainly there. And if they're seeing rust on the flag leaf, I mean, that's where they've got to make a decision. Even at this point, is the cost of the application, fungicide application, and offset what they can save, from a grain standpoint. So rust has been kind of an issue. Dr. Nolan mentioned last week we were talking about this subject that sometimes when you're having rust, that may be a good sign that you've had a good year. You at least had some moisture, and we got to have moisture to have rust. But rust is somewhat of a problem in some areas, and guys really need to be watching their fields closely, especially that flag leaf. Here recently, you have done some tissue testing on some of your wheat. It's kind of an interesting topic. You had your fertility program in the fall and then in the winter, and now you're doing some tissue sampling to see, basically looking back to see what that plant uptake and how effective that your fertility program was. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
well, we tweaked our fertilizer stuff this past fall. I've been experimenting with some slow release fertilizer in furrow at the same time that we're planting, and I really wanted to see. And the objective is to try to save that top dress if we don't have a weed issue, to not go back and make a second application. So I was concerned that we had enough, particularly nitrogen, in our plant whenever it came time to this stage of production. And so we pulled some samples, sent them off to two different laboratories, and got some results back, and saw really encouraged. We were really encouraged by what we saw. It looked like our plant health as far as our nitrogen levels and other things too. We tested for everything. I mean, both micros as well as NP and K, and it really, really made me feel good about what we had done this past fall. I think it's going to be a tool that we can use a lot if we will, particularly when it comes to early season making a second application. If we go ahead and do some tissue sampling and find out, that we got some deficiencies and there's still time to make an application for fertility, then I think that, we do a lot of, we don't, but a lot of our cotton growers do a good bit of tissue sampling on stuff to see kind of where they are on their cotton. And we're just not doing enough of it in our wheat production. And I think it's a tool we need to be doing more of.
So certainly a tool if you do it in time that you have.
Yep.
If you see a deficiency, you can make another application, or it tells you maybe what you did right for this year, or what you maybe missed in moving into next season's crop.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's a very valuable tool, and we need to be doing more of it.
What else? Just kind of give you an overview of what your thoughts are on the crop right here around the big country area that you've seen. I know we're hopeful that we're, at least average, above average on your yields. We're still a little ways out to be making yield projections just yet, but what is your take on the overall status of the crop?
Well, it's got me worried enough that I'm trying to make sure we're prepared for the harvest, because it could be a really, really good year if we get a little more luck and dodge some more of these hailstorms. I mean, I'm now actively talking to railroad about what we're going to do on rail cars and stuff like that, because I want to make sure that we're prepared, because this could be a really good year for everybody. I'm hoping that it is, because they need a good year this year. It's been tough the last couple of years with this dry weather that we've had.
Certainly has, and it does have the potential at setting up to be a good harvest year, and we hope we do. But as we'll come back each week on this segment and kind of do some updates, and I hope those continue to be positive throughout the rest of the spring.
We just need a little more help on the price. We're not getting a lot from the grain companies from that standpoint. It seems like there's still too much wheat being brought in from offshore that's causing our price to be depressed, and it's very aggravating. I think wheat should be higher than what it is now, but it's not. So we'll just have to deal with it as it comes. Maybe we can offset with a better yield.
Yeah, and that's certainly something we have to watch as we move forward and get into harvest season. And speaking of, we have our wheat tour coming up on May 3rd, which we will do like we've done the last couple of years. We'll meet over in Callahan County at Eula at the forage trials there and talk forage in our small grains. Then we'll move to Tuscola where we have our research trials there just east of Tuscola, and we'll look at all the varieties and how they're performing along in there that day. Then we'll move into Tuscola, the community center, and we have Dr. Mark Welch to come in and talk about wheat markets, and that ties into back what you were talking about just now, as far as where our wheat price is doing right now and what's driving it and what the future may hold with it. So we hope anyone can join us if you're watching this later or listening to us. Join us for our wheat field day or wheat tour on May 3rd. You be watching for more information. If you have any questions about it, you can call our office here, the extension office here, or the one in Callahan County as well, as we do a partnership with them. So that is a free event. Thanks to all of our sponsors, and we hope folks join it. Any last thing you want to add, Lanny?
No, I'd just like to encourage people to come to the wheat trial because there's the guys have done a good job of putting it in, and it's a good year to see some side-by-side comparisons because of the moisture that we've had, and there's a lot to be learned there from the different varieties, and I hope that everybody will make plans to attend.
Certainly is. It's a great chance to see these varieties and how they performed under these conditions this year. It's never too early to be thinking about next year's crop and what you may be planting. So it's a great chance to get out there, see that, also network to other producers and a lot of our sponsors, and a lot of good information that day. So coming up May 3rd, our wheat tour. So we encourage folks to attend that. It is free of charge, thanks to sponsors again. You can call the Taylor County Extension Office or Callahan County and RSVP your spot there. So that'll wrap up our wheat update for April 5th. We appreciate Lanny being on here with us for this week, and hopefully next week when we get to that episode, the conditions will still continue to be good. So thanks for listening, and hope to see you next week.
Thank you.